Here's an expanded 1,200-word version of the pause before reacting concept, written in a style that mirrors Jordan Peterson's logical and philosophical approach. Life is unpredictable. It is full of situations that test us, moments of conflict, disappointment, frustration, and even outright provocation. And in these moments, we are often compelled by instinct to react rather than respond. But there is a fundamental difference between the two. Reaction is immediate, emotional, and often destructive. Response, on the other hand, is thoughtful, measured, and ultimately more effective. Consider a time when you reacted without thinking, perhaps in anger, frustration, or fear. Maybe you lashed out at someone who insulted you. Maybe you made a rash decision because you felt cornered. Maybe you let anxiety control you instead of assessing the situation rationally. And afterward, when the emotion settled, you likely realized that your reaction was not the best course of action. You may have regretted your words, your choices, or the damage caused by your impulsiveness. Now, contrast that with a situation where you took a moment before responding, where you stepped back from the heat of the moment, took a breath, and allowed yourself the time to think. The outcome was likely different, more measured, more productive, and ultimately more beneficial to you and those around you. The ability to pause before reacting is not just a social skill. It is a discipline, a fundamental practice that separates people who are ruled by their emotions from those who have mastery over their own minds. It is the difference between chaos and order, between weakness and strength, between failure and success. Why is pausing before reacting so crucial? Because it grants you the opportunity to reassert control over yourself. When you react impulsively, you surrender control to external forces. You let the words, actions, and opinions of others dictate your state of mind. You become a mere extension of the environment around you, bouncing from one emotional reaction to the next without any real agency. This is a dangerous way to live. Think about how easily people are provoked in today's world. Social media, for example, thrives on impulsive reactions. A single tweet, a brief comment, or a sensationalized news headline can trigger outrage, fear, or resentment. And without taking even a moment to reflect, people react, often in anger, often irrationally, often in ways that escalate conflict rather than resolve it. But what if instead people took a moment to pause? What if they asked themselves, is this worth my energy? Is this emotion justified? Am I responding in a way that aligns with my values? Pausing allows you to engage the rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, before the emotional part. The amygdala is wired for immediate survival responses, fight, flight, or freeze. It is an ancient mechanism that kept our ancestors alive in the face of real physical threats. But in modern life, most threats are not immediate dangers. They are psychological, social, or emotional. And when we allow the amygdala to dictate our responses, we end up creating unnecessary problems rather than solving them. Imagine someone insults you. Your immediate reaction might be anger. You might want to insult them back to defend your ego, to prove a point. But what does that accomplish? The conflict escalates, resentment grows, and now you are emotionally invested in something that may not even matter in the grand scheme of your life. But if you pause, if you give yourself even 5 seconds to think, you might realize that responding with calmness, humor, or indifference is far more powerful. It disarms the other person. It shows that you are not easily controlled. And most importantly, it keeps your mind clear and unburdened by unnecessary negativity. Pausing before reacting is not just about avoiding conflict. It is about making better decisions in all areas of life. Consider financial decisions. Many people react impulsively when making purchases, driven by temporary desires rather than long-term needs. They see an expensive item, they feel an urge, and without pausing, they buy it, only to later regret it when they see the impact on their bank account. But if they had paused, even for a few moments, and asked themselves, do I really need this? Does this align with my financial goals? They might have made a different, wiser choice. The same applies to career decisions. How many people have quit jobs in a moment of frustration, only to realize later that they acted impulsively? How many relationships have been damaged because one person reacted emotionally instead of taking a moment to think? How many life-altering mistakes have been made because people acted before reflecting? Pausing before reacting is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it is a sign of great strength. It demonstrates self-mastery, an ability to remain steady in the face of provocation. This is why the most respected leaders, thinkers, and successful individuals throughout history have emphasized the importance of composure. They understand that emotions, while valuable, must be regulated, not allowed to run unchecked. So how can you train yourself to pause before reacting? It starts with awareness. Begin by recognizing the moments when you feel emotionally charged, when you notice anger rising, when you feel anxiety creeping in, when frustration clouds your thinking. Pause. Do not speak immediately. Do not act immediately. Instead, take a deep breath, count to 5. If the situation allows, remove yourself for a moment. Ask yourself, what is the best response here? Will this matter tomorrow? What outcome do I truly want? Another powerful practice is deliberate exposure to discomfort. People who react impulsively are often those who have never trained themselves to handle discomfort. They give in to their emotions because they have never built the strength to resist them. But if you intentionally expose yourself to small challenges, delaying gratification, practicing patience, sitting with discomfort instead of reacting to it, you develop the mental toughness needed to pause in more critical situations. Meditation is another effective tool. It trains your mind to observe thoughts and emotions without immediately engaging with them. Instead of reacting to every mental impulse, you learn to watch it, analyze it, and decide whether it is worth acting on. This skill is invaluable in real-life situations where emotions can be overwhelming. Finally, take responsibility for your reactions. It is easy to say, I couldn't help it, or they made me angry. But the truth is, no one has the power to control your mind unless you give it to them. Your emotions are yours to manage. Your responses are your choice. And the sooner you accept that responsibility, the sooner you gain real control over your life. In the end, pausing before reacting is about building a stronger, wiser, and more disciplined mind. It is about refusing to be a slave to impulse, about choosing thoughtful response over reckless reaction. It is a habit that will improve your relationships, your career, your mental health, and your overall success. So the next time life tests you, remember, you do not have to react immediately. You always have the power to pause. And in that pause, you will find clarity, wisdom, and true strength. Building internal clarity is one of the most important yet overlooked aspects of a stable and fulfilling life. Without clarity, people drift through life like leaves in the wind, easily swayed by external influences, emotional turbulence, and the demands of others. They react instead of respond, hesitate instead of act, and remain trapped in cycles of confusion, indecision, and frustration. Clarity is the foundation upon which all meaningful action is built. Without it, success, fulfillment, and stability remain elusive. Internal clarity is about knowing who you are, what you value, and what you aim to achieve. It is about defining your guiding principles so that you do not have to rethink them every time a new challenge arises. A person who lacks clarity is like a ship without a compass, easily thrown off course by the slightest storm. But a person with clarity is steady, directed, and able to navigate through life's uncertainties with confidence. One of the first steps in building internal clarity is identifying and understanding your core values. Most people go through life without ever explicitly defining what they stand for. They absorb societal expectations, follow trends, and conform to whatever seems acceptable at the time. But without a clear sense of personal values, decisions become difficult. Should you prioritize career growth or family life? Should you seek financial success or personal fulfillment? Should you compromise on integrity to gain social approval? These questions are nearly impossible to answer without first having a well-defined value system. To build clarity in values, one must engage in deep self-reflection. What principles do you admire in others? What behaviors do you respect in yourself? What qualities make you feel proud or ashamed? When you examine your past decisions, which ones brought lasting satisfaction and which ones led to regret? These reflections help uncover the values that truly matter to you, not the ones imposed by external pressures. Once these values are defined, they become a compass, guiding decision-making and helping you maintain consistency even in the face of challenges. Another crucial aspect of internal clarity is understanding your goals. Many people wander aimlessly through life, working hard but without direction. They take jobs without considering whether they align with their long-term aspirations, enter relationships without clear expectations, and pursue short-term pleasures at the cost of long-term fulfillment. Clarity in goals eliminates this uncertainty. It provides a roadmap allowing you to prioritize actions that lead toward meaningful progress rather than aimless busyness. A well-defined goal is specific, measurable, and aligned with your values. If your goal is financial independence, you need to define what that looks like. How much money? By what age? Through what means? If your goal is to improve relationships, you need to determine what qualities you seek in others, what behaviors you must cultivate, and what boundaries you need to set. A vague goal such as, "I want to be successful," is useless without precise definitions. What does success mean to you? Wealth? Influence? Mastery of a skill? The clearer you define your goals, the more effectively you can take steps toward achieving them. Beyond values and goals, internal clarity also requires self-awareness. Many people struggle in life not because they lack intelligence or resources, but because they lack understanding of themselves. They do not recognize their strengths, weaknesses, triggers, and habitual patterns of thought and behavior. Without this awareness, they repeat the same mistakes, fall into the same emotional traps, and find themselves in similar conflicts over and over again. Developing self-awareness requires honest self-examination. How do you react under stress? What fears drive your decisions? What subconscious biases shape your thinking? Are you easily influenced by others? Do you tend to avoid difficult conversations? Do you procrastinate when faced with uncertainty? These are not easy questions to answer, but they are necessary. Clarity comes from facing uncomfortable truths about yourself rather than avoiding them. Journaling is a powerful tool for gaining self-awareness. Writing down your thoughts, feelings, and reactions to daily events helps you notice patterns in your thinking. It reveals recurring emotional triggers, unhelpful habits, and internal contradictions. Meditation is another effective method. By observing your thoughts without immediately acting on them, you develop the ability to separate passing emotions from deeper truths. Seeking feedback from trusted individuals can also provide valuable insights, as others often see aspects of ourselves that we overlook. Once self-awareness is developed, the next step in building internal clarity is aligning your actions with your values and goals. Many people experience internal conflict because their behavior does not match their stated beliefs. They value honesty but tell small lies to avoid discomfort. They seek discipline but indulge in distractions. They claim to prioritize health but neglect exercise and proper nutrition. These contradictions create cognitive dissonance, leading to stress, frustration, and a sense of being lost. To resolve this, one must practice integrity, not just in moral terms, but in alignment between thoughts, words, and actions. If you believe in a certain principle, you must act in accordance with it, even when inconvenient. If you value personal growth, you must invest time in learning and self-improvement rather than waiting for motivation. If you prioritize meaningful relationships, you must actively nurture them rather than passively expecting them to thrive. Clarity comes from consistency. When your actions reflect your beliefs, you gain confidence, self-respect, and peace of mind. Another essential aspect of internal clarity is learning to filter external influences. The modern world is saturated with noise, social media, news cycles, advertisements, and endless opinions. Without clarity, people absorb these influences uncritically, allowing external voices to shape their beliefs and dictate their priorities. This leads to confusion, anxiety, and a lack of direction. To cultivate clarity, one must be selective about the information they consume. Who are you listening to? What ideas are you allowing to shape your worldview? Are you absorbing content that reinforces your values and goals, or are you passively consuming distractions? Being intentional about the information you engage with helps strengthen your sense of identity and purpose rather than diluting it. Silence and solitude are also powerful tools for clarity. Constant engagement with external stimuli prevents deep thinking. Taking time away from distractions through meditation, nature walks, or quiet reflection allows your mind to process ideas more effectively. It helps separate essential thoughts from mental clutter, revealing deeper insights that are often drowned out by everyday noise. Ultimately, internal clarity is not something that happens automatically. It is a deliberate process that requires effort, discipline, and continuous self-examination. It involves defining your values, setting clear goals, developing self-awareness, aligning actions with beliefs, filtering external influences, and cultivating moments of deep reflection. It is not a one-time achievement, but an ongoing practice. The reward, however, is profound. Clarity eliminates unnecessary stress and indecision. It provides confidence in your choices, resilience in the face of adversity, and a strong sense of purpose. When you have clarity, you are not easily swayed by temporary emotions, societal pressures, or the opinions of others. You become the architect of your own life rather than a passive participant. A person with internal clarity knows where they are going and why. They do not waste energy on meaningless distractions or chase fleeting desires. They move with purpose, act with conviction, and build a life that is truly their own. And in a world filled with confusion, such clarity is a rare and invaluable strength. Training through voluntary discomfort is one of the most effective ways to develop mental resilience, discipline, and inner strength. In a world where convenience and comfort are prioritized above all else, few people willingly subject themselves to discomfort. Yet, growth is rarely found in ease and luxury. Strength, whether physical, mental, or emotional, is forged in challenge. Those who actively seek discomfort rather than avoid it cultivate the ability to withstand hardship, maintain composure under stress, and push beyond self-imposed limitations. Voluntary discomfort is not about unnecessary suffering. It is about choosing challenges that make you stronger rather than waiting for life to impose them upon you. There is no escaping difficulty. Every person, no matter how privileged or fortunate, will face struggle at some point. The difference is that those who have trained themselves to endure discomfort will be prepared when hardship arrives, while those who have lived only in ease will crumble. The key is to make discomfort a tool for growth rather than a source of fear. One of the simplest and most direct ways to engage in voluntary discomfort is through physical hardship. The body and mind are deeply connected. When you strengthen one, you strengthen the other. Pushing yourself physically, whether through intense exercise, cold exposure, fasting, or endurance challenges, builds mental toughness. When you deliberately put yourself in uncomfortable physical situations, you train your mind to endure difficulty rather than retreat from it. Consider the experience of intense exercise. When muscles burn, lungs ache, and exhaustion sets in, the mind naturally seeks relief. It whispers, "Stop, this is too much." But if you push through that moment, if you resist the urge to quit, you teach yourself an invaluable lesson. Discomfort is temporary, and you are capable of more than you think. The same principle applies beyond physical exertion. Every time you face discomfort and refuse to give in, you weaken the power of self-doubt and strengthen your ability to persevere in all areas of life. Another powerful method of training through voluntary discomfort is delaying gratification. Modern society encourages instant rewards, fast food, on-demand entertainment, instant purchases, immediate validation through social media. This constant indulgence weakens discipline and makes patience feel intolerable. People become accustomed to ease and lose the ability to work toward long-term rewards. But if you train yourself to delay gratification, you build the capacity to withstand discomfort for the sake of greater outcomes. Fasting is an example of this principle in action. Choosing to go without food, even when it is readily available, is an act of control over one of the most basic human urges. The body craves sustenance, but by refusing to give in immediately, you prove to yourself that hunger is not an emergency. It is merely a sensation that can be endured. This self-imposed discipline extends to other areas, resisting unnecessary spending, limiting entertainment, avoiding impulsive decisions. The more you practice self-denial, the stronger your ability to make conscious, deliberate choices rather than being ruled by fleeting desires. Another crucial aspect of voluntary discomfort is facing fears and uncertainties. Many people remain trapped in lives they do not truly want. Because they avoid discomfort, they stay in unfulfilling jobs, toxic relationships, or stagnant routines simply because change feels too uncertain, too risky. But comfort is often a prison. What feels safe can actually be limiting. To grow, you must train yourself to step into discomfort, to willingly confront the unknown rather than hide from it. Public speaking, for example, is a fear many people avoid at all costs. The thought of standing before an audience, being judged, making mistakes, these fears feel overwhelming. But if you deliberately put yourself in situations where you must speak over and over again, the discomfort diminishes. You realize that fear is an illusion, that failure is temporary, and that avoidance only makes anxiety worse. The same applies to difficult conversations, pursuing ambitious goals, or stepping into new environments. Every time you face discomfort rather than run from it, you expand your capacity for courage. Cold exposure is another example of training discomfort. Taking cold showers or immersing yourself in freezing water is physically unpleasant, but it teaches the mind to endure stress without panicking. The initial shock, the urge to escape, it all mirrors how people react to discomfort in daily life. But if you remain calm, if you regulate your breathing and refuse to surrender to immediate impulses, you develop resilience. You train yourself to withstand discomfort rather than be controlled by it. Emotional discomfort is another area where voluntary training is essential. Many people avoid difficult emotions, grief, loneliness, rejection, frustration, by seeking distractions. They numb themselves with entertainment, food, substances, or constant stimulation. But avoiding discomfort does not eliminate it. It only delays it. The more you suppress difficult emotions, the more power they have over you. Training through emotional discomfort means allowing yourself to feel pain rather than running from it. Sitting with discomfort, whether through meditation, deep introspection, or honest conversations with yourself, builds emotional resilience. If you allow yourself to experience sadness without distraction, if you process rejection without seeking immediate validation, if you accept uncertainty rather than trying to control everything, you become unshakable. You realize that emotions, like physical discomfort, are temporary. They arise, they peak, and they pass. And when you stop fearing them, they lose their power over you. One of the greatest benefits of training through voluntary discomfort is the development of self-reliance. When you expose yourself to hardship on purpose, you stop expecting life to be easy. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect before taking action. You learn that you do not need ideal circumstances, external motivation, or the approval of others to push forward. You can endure difficulty and keep moving no matter what. This mindset is rare in a world that prioritizes comfort. But the strongest individuals, mentally, physically, and emotionally, are those who have trained themselves to handle adversity rather than avoid it. They do not panic in the face of hardship because they have already faced discomfort on their own terms. They do not break down when life becomes difficult because they have already built the capacity to withstand struggle. Training through voluntary discomfort does not mean making life miserable. It is not about suffering for suffering's sake. It is about choosing challenges that build resilience, discipline, and inner strength. It is about becoming the type of person who is prepared for hardship rather than hoping it never comes. In the end, discomfort is inevitable. Life will present challenges, losses, setbacks, and pain. The question is not whether you will face discomfort, but whether you will be prepared when it arrives. If you train yourself now through physical endurance, delayed gratification, facing fears, emotional resilience, you will meet adversity with strength rather than weakness. Most people live their lives avoiding discomfort at all costs, but those who seek it, embrace it, and train with it become something greater. They become the ones who do not break under pressure, who do not retreat in fear, and who push forward no matter what obstacles arise. They become the masters of their own fate rather than victims of circumstance. And in that, they find true freedom. Taking full responsibility is one of the most transformative decisions a person can make in life. It is the difference between being the master of your destiny and a victim of circumstance. It is the foundation of personal growth, success, and fulfillment. Without responsibility, people remain stuck, blaming others, making excuses, and waiting for external forces to change their situation. But when you take full responsibility, you reclaim power over your own life. You stop passively reacting and start actively shaping your future. Responsibility begins with the realization that your life is a direct reflection of your actions, choices, and mindset. It is tempting to blame external factors, bad luck, unfair circumstances, difficult people. But the truth is that no one else is coming to fix your problems. If you want a better life, you have to create it yourself. Taking responsibility means recognizing that while you cannot control everything that happens to you, you can control how you respond, and your response determines everything. One of the greatest barriers to responsibility is the habit of blaming others. When things go wrong, it is easy to point fingers, to blame parents, teachers, employers, society, or even fate. But blaming others gives away your power. It shifts control over your life to external forces, leaving you helpless and stagnant. The moment you stop blaming others and start looking inward, you take the first step toward real change. Imagine two people facing the same setback, say a job loss. One blames the economy, the employer, or unfair hiring practices. They complain, feel victimized, and wait for a lucky break. The other takes responsibility. They analyze what they could have done differently, develop new skills, and take immediate action to improve their situation. Who do you think will recover faster? Who will grow stronger? Responsibility leads to progress. Blame leads to stagnation. Taking full responsibility also means owning your past mistakes. Many people carry regret, guilt, or shame over past decisions, but instead of taking responsibility, they dwell on what went wrong without learning from it. Responsibility is not about self-punishment. It is about learning and improving. Every mistake is a lesson, but only if you are willing to confront it honestly. Think about the last time you made a poor decision. Did you take the time to understand why? Did you examine your thought process, emotional state, and underlying beliefs? Or did you just brush it off and hope to do better next time? True responsibility requires self-reflection. It requires looking at your mistakes without excuses and asking, what could I have done differently? The more you practice this, the more you refine your decision-making, ensuring you do not repeat the same patterns. Another crucial aspect of responsibility is taking ownership of your emotions. Many people allow their emotions to control them, reacting impulsively to anger, fear, sadness, or frustration. They blame others for how they feel. He made me angry. She ruined my day. They upset me. But the truth is, no one else is responsible for your emotions. You are. Taking responsibility for your emotions means acknowledging that your feelings are the result of your interpretations, not external events. Two people can face the same situation and react completely differently. One sees an obstacle and feels defeated. Another sees it as a challenge and feels motivated. The situation is the same. The difference is in their mindset. When you take responsibility for your emotions, you stop being controlled by circumstances and start mastering your own inner world. This applies to relationships as well. Many conflicts arise because people refuse to take responsibility for their own role in the situation. It is easy to blame a partner, friend, or colleague for misunderstandings or disputes. But a responsible person asks, how did I contribute to this? Did you communicate clearly? Did you react emotionally instead of rationally? Did you assume the worst instead of seeking understanding? When you take responsibility for your part in every interaction, relationships improve because you become more self-aware and proactive rather than reactive. Taking full responsibility also extends to your goals and ambitions. Many people have dreams and aspirations, but they wait for the right opportunity, the right time, or the right motivation. They make excuses. I don't have enough time, I don't have the right connections, I'm too old, too young, too busy. But these are just ways to avoid responsibility. The truth is, if something matters to you, you will find a way. If it doesn't, you will find an excuse. Look at anyone who has achieved great success and you will see a pattern. They took full responsibility for their progress. They did not wait for perfect conditions. They worked with what they had, improved their skills, and adapted to challenges. They owned their failures and learned from them instead of giving up. Taking responsibility means understanding that your goals are entirely in your hands. No one else will do the work for you. An important part of responsibility is discipline. Many people think success is about motivation, but motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Discipline, on the other hand, is a choice. It is the ability to do what needs to be done even when you do not feel like it. Responsibility and discipline go hand in hand. When you take full ownership of your life, you no longer wait for motivation. You create routines, habits, and systems that ensure consistent progress. For example, if you want to get in shape, you cannot rely on feeling motivated to exercise. You have to take responsibility for your health and create a routine that you stick to regardless of how you feel. If you want to build a business, you cannot wait for inspiration. You have to take action daily, even when results are slow. Responsibility means doing what is necessary, not just what is convenient. Another crucial aspect of responsibility is accepting that life is not always fair. Many people fall into the trap of thinking, if only life were fair, things would be different. But fairness is an illusion. Some people start with advantages, others face greater obstacles. But dwelling on unfairness changes nothing. The only thing that matters is what you do with what you have. History is full of people who faced immense disadvantages but succeeded anyway. They refused to see themselves as victims. They took responsibility for their lives, no matter how unfair their circumstances. That is the mindset that creates strength. Complaining about unfairness may feel justified, but it does not change reality. Action does. Taking full responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything or ignoring external factors. It means focusing on what you can control. You cannot control other people, but you can control how you interact with them. You cannot control the economy, but you can control how you manage your finances. You cannot control random misfortunes, but you can control how you respond. Responsibility shifts your focus from problems to solutions, from helplessness to empowerment. Ultimately, responsibility is freedom. When you take full responsibility, you no longer depend on luck, circumstances, or the actions of others. You stop waiting and start creating. You develop resilience, confidence, and the ability to navigate life's challenges with strength and purpose. Most people avoid responsibility because it is hard. It requires effort, self-awareness, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. But the reward is worth it. A life of responsibility is a life of control, growth, and fulfillment. The moment you decide to take full responsibility for your thoughts, actions, emotions, and future, you stop being a passive participant in life and become its active architect. The question is, will you choose to take responsibility today, or will you continue waiting for someone else to do it for you? The choice is yours. And that is exactly what responsibility is all about.